Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, July the 7th. To start the meeting, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, please be aware this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and the meeting may also be audio or video recorded by people present in the room. Our first item of business is the opportunity for public comment. So this is, if anyone is in attendance who has a question or comment to make to the board or staff about anything that is not on the agenda. All agenda items, we have the opportunity for public comment then. So is anybody here with an issue that is not on the agenda tonight? Tom?
I'm Tom Hitchcock with, we're from West Goshen Township, and I just want to spend a few minutes talking about the intersection of West Town Road, Falcon Lane, and Little Shiloh. On July 2nd or 3rd, I can't remember the date, but tree trimmers came out and took care of the southwest corner of Little Shiloh, trimmed up a lot of branches and debris. It looks great. The sight lines have improved tremendously, so thank you for doing that. I just wanted to know if there's anyone here that can give me an update on the southeast corner of Little Shiloh and the clearing that corner for our sight lines.
Unfortunately, I don't have an update on that, but I can ask our codes department of public works and just see if they have any information.
Okay.
You said southeast corner? Is that
Correct.
Southeast, okay.
I stated before there would be a permit for an occupancy through Pennsylvania, so I don't know if any paperwork's been generated for that. But that's all through the code enforcement department, or?
What are you referring to in terms, like the work to do the tree trimming work?
Yeah, PennDOT said in order to do that work, you need a occupancy permit.
It would be pulled by whoever the contractor is who's doing the work or the municipality. So I don't recall who did that work. And so the contractor, so it would be them who would get the permit from PennDOT.
Okay. Who is the contact person from the township for this project?
I believe Shelby Smith, our zoning officer, was handling it in conjunction with our public works department, but I'll check with her.
Okay.
I know she spoke about it at the last board
Next
meeting.
month. Yes.
Is there anyone else with a comment or a question this evening? Stephen? Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, board, supervisors. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July, safe and fun. Just a brief announcement that I had the honor of portraying John Hancock as part of a dramatic reading of the Declaration of Independence for the annual celebration of the 4th of July for the Centennial, the National Archives in Washington. And it was a profound experience and deeply moving on many levels. And I had an opportunity to see the Emancipation Proclamation and the deep connected history shared also regarding the anti-slavery petition of 1783, of which our ancestor John Forsyth was a signatory. So I just want to provide some brief updates. I'm proud to announce that Save Forsyth Farm is now officially a 501c3 organization doing business as Friends of Forsyth. So that means we now can accept donations to advance our hope and our efforts to see to the protection of this historic asset. We have faced a number of challenges trying to become a party of interest, as you're aware, and those legal fees have been pretty significant. Unfortunately, we could not find any legal help in our community of Westchester, charging exorbitant fees, and so we had to go to Lancaster to find a highly effective lawyer by the name of Chadwick Schnee, who's been representing us and doing a phenomenal job. Judge Burway chose not to issue a partial demolition option, which we strongly advocate for. We recognize the public safety concern and we want to address that. But there are also public safety concerns regarding asbestos and black mold remediation, and understanding Mr. Kravitz's background with respect to due diligence and managing properties. So with that said, we have paid $2,000 in legal fees to our lawyer. We've raised over $1,000 within the past 3 months. We've had additional expenses, but now that we have 501c3, that means we can apply for grants, and it would be my hope that we could apply for the National Trust for Historic Preservation grant, which there's a particular grant for properties in neglect of national significance. And I think that would be a tremendous badge of honor for our township and to unify us in our history for education, abolition, Underground Railroad, history in our community, which has never been fully discussed before. And in closing, I just want to reiterate, we have a number of VIP donors who are willing and ready to step up, and we encourage Mr. Kravitz to look at an alternative property and donate the property as a write-off for an open space donation to the township, and we work together to find and create an open space historic site for this unique property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Stephen, I have a quick question for you. Have you had any conversation personally yourself with Mr. Kravitz about that option?
I had reached out to Carl Ewald, and he is uncomfortable communicating with us directly, but I suggested that.
Not Mr. Ewald, because he's representing the conservatorship. I was talking about yourself directly with Mr. Kravitz.
Not at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else with a comment or a question for the board? Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item number 4. Discussion and possible approval of a request for partial waiver from section 72-24-2A of the West Goshen Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance for the approved preliminary final subdivision and land development plan for 20 Ellis Lane and 1240 Strasburg Road, known as the Ellis Crossing Development. Chris, would you introduce this, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And just for the record, we have Andy Parker, the Township's traffic engineer, McCormick Taylor here tonight, and representatives from the applicant here this evening. So before the board this evening is a request for partial waiver from section 72-24-2A of the Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance for the approved preliminary final subdivision plan for 20 Ellis Lane and 1240 Strasburg Road, also known as Ellis Crossing. The board granted preliminary final subdivision and development approval for this project on December 16, 2025. There was a condition on the condition number 3 in the resolution of approval stated as follows. Prior to issuance of a building permit for a dwelling unit, the applicant shall secure approval from East Goshen Township to amend the existing traffic signal permit for the traffic signal at the intersection of Ellis Lane and Strasburg Road to make the necessary modifications to the signal permit plan. I provided a copy of the approval resolution, the materials for the board. So highway occupancy permit collaboration meeting was held between PennDOT, East Goshen and West Goshen Townships to discuss and review comments on the HOP application. So there were numerous issues regarding the sidewalk proposed north of the project entrance on Ellis Lane, and they were outlined in a letter from the applicant's legal counsel. PennDOT has recommended that the sidewalk not be extended from the proposed Ellis Crossing driveway north to the Strasburg Road intersection. And I will note that while East Goshen Township is responsible for the traffic signal maintenance at the intersection of Ellis Lane and Strasburg Road, PennDOT controls the intersection. But PennDOT did comment that the Ellis Lane sidewalk south of the Ellis Crossing driveway toward the existing shopping center remains appropriate, including the southern corner sidewalk connection into the site at the proposed emergency access. So Mr. Parker attended the meeting with PennDOT so he can answer any questions related to that meeting that the board may have. So a couple items for the board's consideration. If the board is amenable to granting the requested partial waiver, since the sidewalk was noted on the recorded land development plans for the project, we have to go back to the Chester County Planning Commission for review. Since it depicted the installation of sidewalk in this area, and those plans would have to be recorded, and then we could schedule a formal waiver and amended plan approval consideration for a future meeting of the board after the statutory review period by the Planning Commission is run, which is a 30-day period under the municipality's planning code. So that is where everything stands, and as I said, there are representatives from the applicant here this evening and the township's traffic engineer to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Chris. Is there anybody, would you like to make some comments? What's your name, please?
Yes, Bob Tucker. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I'm here substituting for my colleague Gina Gerber. Chris?
Bob, I do have the plans if you'd like me to bring those up. Just let me know what sheets you'd like me to go to.
I'll leave that to Ted to tell you what sheets. I just want to touch on a few things before I turn it over to our engineer. Chris did a good job of explaining the relief we're seeking partial waiver to not be required to install the sidewalk from Ellis Crossing driveway to the intersection of Strasburg Road. As Chris noted, there was a meeting with our team and PennDOT and East Goshen, and ultimately the recommendation was that the sidewalk not be extended. So that's why we're here tonight seeking the waiver. And based upon PennDOT's recommendation, we're also seeking a waiver of the fee in lieu for this portion because the installation of the sidewalk is not practical or necessary. as determined by PennDOT. So our position is that a fee in lieu should not be required for this portion of the proposed sidewalk. And if the board is amenable to this request and is going to send the amended plan to the county PC, we just ask that for confirmation that we can proceed with construction and issuances of building permits as we wait for that review and scheduled meeting for 30 days.
Was this, did you record the final plans already? The final, they are, that wasn't clear on
I
that.
believe they were in March or April.
Okay.
And then as far as the technical questions or why PennDOT came to its recommendation, we have Ted Worrell, our project engineer, to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tucker. So Ted, would you like to say a few words? If you just briefly summarize why PennDOT did not think this was a good idea.
Sure.
Or if you just spell your last name, please.
Sure. I'm Ted Worrell. I'm one of the developers for the project. Scott is our engineer.
Okay.
Scott Swazinski. I can't spell his last name. So, yeah, why don't you go through the technical?
Yeah, I mean, I can be pretty brief with it. Scott Swazinski, my last name is Zwinzanski. If you go to sheet 4, probably the best. Sheet 5. Let's go one more to sheet 6. I told me to pull up. All right, so the northern corner there is the from the intersection of Strasburg up to our driveway, which is about midway up, midway across the top of the plan there. That's the portion of sidewalk that PennDOT does not recommend us installing. The main issues are the amount of grading required down there to do a proper ADA compliant ramp to get the grades that are needed. With the road being steep already, the embankments being steep, and getting the sidewalk close enough to the traffic signal mast arm would require significant grading around the backside of the existing mast arm. There is a existing Verizon pole there which would need to be relocated. There are 2 trees there which would probably have to come down, and then there's another Pico pole where grading would have to come out, probably about 2 feet of grading next to the pole, which would create instability on a Pico pole. There's a lot of disturbance would be required to install a ramp there that is ADA compliant, and even then, there's it would be technically infeasible, which requires extra forms from PennDOT. PennDOT said there's no way to do a compliant ramp here without technical infeasibilities, basically waivers given for that. Another point that was brought up at our PennDOT meeting is there's no pedestrian generators in that direction along Strasburg Road compared to the other direction to the south, which is where the shopping center, they said. In our scoping application with PennDOT, they said provide a logical terminus for a sidewalk coming from the shopping center, and they agreed that our driveway is a logical place for that sidewalk coming from the south to end for residents who want to walk to the shopping center to come to that driveway. There's no pedestrian generators in the immediate area around that intersection. Those were PennDOT's comments. East Goshen Township also commented that they are not looking to change the intersection. They are responsible for maintenance. They would go along with it if we had to, but they said it's not something that they are pressing or looking for us to do. It's changing the infrastructure that they are responsible for maintaining. That's a summary of why PennDOT, they said they recommend not doing that sidewalk extension.
Understood. Just remind me, what was the discussion we had previously about sidewalk on Strasburg Road?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the point I was going to bring up. So when we initially requested the waiver for the Strasburg Road sidewalk, it was primarily because of the issues at the intersection. And it was only until we went forward with PennDOT that they said, well, you can't feasibly achieve even a logical terminus that we proposed, we thought would work because of those same issues. The direction of the intersection is such that you have to do the thing that we already figured out we couldn't do, that we requested the waiver for, in order for it to be remotely compliant. So that was precisely kind of where we landed.
And your resolution or approval granted a waiver for the no sidewalk on Strasburg?
And did we, as part of that, ask for a fee in lieu for that section of sidewalk?
So,
Yes.
Okay.
That's condition number 4 in the resolution that was passed granting you the waiver.
Thanks.
Before giving you approval.
That's right.
yeah.
Right.
Now, the issues that for along Strasburg Road, are they similar to the issues that have been raised by PennDOT as to why that would not be a feasible place to have a sidewalk on the southern side of the?
They are the issues. That's exactly it. That was exactly what PennDOT says were the reasons why that we requested the initial, because we can't make the connection to Strasburg because of the grades primarily. There's 2 different utility poles and a multitude of trees and the grade alone. So you're exactly right. That was.
So the planning commission heard your arguments, and in their wisdom, they decided to recommend approval, but with the condition that the sidewalk does not have to be installed along Strasburg Road.
Right.
Well, my question to you is what's really the difference here is between your waiver you're requesting now and what was offered to you, granted to you for Strasburg Road?
PennDOT basically requested that no sidewalk terminate into this intersection.
For the same reasons that the planning commission felt it wouldn't be feasible to do it along Strasburg Road.
Right. So it's really a difference of, I don't know the exact linear footage, but a little bit, some sidewalk that we thought we could achieve that PennDOT deemed infeasible. So it's.
Now, how long of a sidewalk are we talking about? What's the footage we're talking about here?
I think it's between 175 and 200 feet.
And what was the
depending on
footage
which
along
side
Strasburg?
you're-
155 feet, you said?
It's between 175 and I believe one side was 190, one side was 175 because of the radiuses.
And what was the footage that would be along Strasburg Road here?
That was 263.
Now, we granted you the waiver for Strasburg Road, but in lieu of that, we requested or we required you to pay a fee into the township that would cover sidewalks that could be installed in other parts of the township. In conformance with our 2019 comprehensive plan passed by the township, which called for sidewalks throughout the community, wherever it was feasible to do it. Now, we've had other land development applications come before the planning commission as well as the board, where it would make sense not to have a sidewalk installed. So, but in the middle of that, we requested that they would give us a contribution towards this sidewalk endeavor in other areas where it would be feasible. Why are you resisting it now for this particular section of the sidewalk?
It's a very fair question. I think primarily, I guess, two reasons. And Bob, feel free to step in, but this is really driven out of the PennDOT directive. And while we understand that no sidewalk can terminate there, it's not something that is even feasible for us to do. So I'd say we're not just not desiring to do it for our own volition. And point 2, which I'll just, I think respectfully ask the board to consider, would be the first fee in lieu that we paid was equated to $114 per linear foot for a sidewalk. I had submitted an initial bid per the standard process. The approved construction cost escrow for the sidewalk that was on the plan is $72 per linear foot. So, what was approved for the project was our construction cost escrow for financial security was substantially less than the fee in lieu we paid. So it's not necessarily that we're within reason. We're happy to contribute certainly where it's appropriate to the township. I hope we've made that clear throughout this entire project. we just ask that you consider those facts.
And just to piggyback on what Ted said, accurately described, the reason we're initially requesting that no fee in lieu would be required is because it's really out of our control. It's technical infeasibility to install the sidewalk, so it's a little bit different than requesting the waiver up front. And in the alternative, and Ted touched on it, if the board is not amenable to that argument, we would just request that you consider the alternative measure, the calculation of the fee in lieu based upon the numbers that Ted described. You can go into further detail on that, but it would be more appropriate for the fee in lieu to be lower than the original fee in lieu, the other portion of Strasburg Road.
Ted, the $72 per foot, is that your estimated cost for the sidewalk that you will be installing from south of the entrance down towards the shopping center?
Yeah, that is the approved by the township engineer construction
Okay,
cost.
thank you. Any other questions from the board for the applicant's counsel or developer? Mr. Parker, do you have any comments on the if you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone? Do you have any comments, Mr. Parker, about the description that was given regarding the meeting with PennDOT's position and the conversation you've heard so far?
I think that was an accurate description. Like they said at the meeting, it was members of the applicant team, myself, PennDOT, and the East Goshen Township traffic engineer, and the need to extend the sidewalk to the intersection was deemed that it was not necessary, not only because of the challenges involved, but there's lack of pedestrian generators in that area. There are no existing sidewalks on any of the legs of that intersection. There's no crosswalks. So it was not felt that it was necessary by all parties to overcome the challenges to get the sidewalk to the intersection that wouldn't really provide much benefit beyond that.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Parker? No. Okay, board, so what are your thoughts on what you've heard? I can kick us off. I mean, personally, I believe that granting a partial waiver to not install that sidewalk is acceptable, but I don't find the arguments put forward as to why not paying a fee in lieu should not be the case. So I would support a waiver, but the fee in lieu should be made for that particular length. But I do understand that the construction cost in the approved plan is, in my opinion, would be an appropriate dollar value to use. Does any board member have a different position?
I agree with that.
I have a different position.
Okay.
I agree with granting the waiver, but I also believe that we should grant the fee in lieu, that we should
Waive it.
waive it.
Waiver, okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that, actually.
Okay. Do you-
I don't agree. I think we should waive it.
Okay. I mean, our history with this is, for a variety of reasons, we've had other developers where we ask for sidewalks, and it can quite often be a complicated issue with utility poles, and the cost escalates, and maybe that particular location doesn't have a lot of pedestrian traffic, but to date, we've had developers pay a fee in lieu no matter what the reason was, whether it was a PennDOT. This is the first time we've had a PennDOT weigh in on an issue, but we've typically had a situation where we've accepted the argument that it doesn't make sense to put a sidewalk in, but the fee in lieu would be appropriate. So I guess that's why I feel supportive of requesting a fee in lieu. So I think we've heard from the board. Does the board have any other final comments? Okay,
I just think that you mentioned we haven't waived it to date, but that doesn't mean that it sets some precedent that we won't waive it. And I actually think that this particular situation, where PennDOT is weighing in and saying there's no feasible way for this to be done, should be imposed on the developer. I think that it doesn't incentivize, development, and I think that there are circumstances that do lie outside, that are the exception, and if there are any, I think that a project like this probably is, and they are keeping some of the sidewalk. It's not like they're taking the whole thing out. They're really trying to, I think, do what they can to promote the interconnectivity that we I've asked them, and we won, and they've been, working with us, very closely and been very considerate of it, and I think that this isn't too much of an ask, so I think we should waive that.
Okay, good. So I think we've heard the arguments from the board. Does a board member wish to make a motion at this point?
If I may, will you do an offer, Ted, to articulate the idea?
Yeah, in thinking about this before, I think there's certainly valid points to both sides, obviously. Maybe a fair or acceptable path forward would be applying the approved construction cost escrow for the entire linear footage of what would be accounted for, and then whatever the difference is, we add that on to an additional fee in lieu. So we paid $30,000 before for 263 linear feet. If it's 463 linear feet, you apply the same dollar per linear foot that's approved in the construction cost escrow, and then we pay the difference. So it's just another alternative. I feel like it satisfies it. We're stewards of the community here, so we try to be at least. So we offer that up for consideration.
Okay, so just so we're clear on what's being offered there, could you just repeat it, and Chris, if you could document what that would cost in terms of additional fee in lieu?
Based on $72 per linear foot at 175 to 200 linear feet, you're looking $12,600 to $14,400. You would just need, I would just need whatever that calculate, whatever the exact linear footage
Right.
is.
Yeah, I did the math based on 200 linear feet, trying to be generous, and it was a difference of $3,104. I'm not volunteering to pay $3,104, but if it is amenable to the board as a path forward, that would be the difference based on my calculation of $72 per linear foot.
So let me try to understand what you're saying. So you would always, the sidewalk that won't be installed, fee to be based upon $72 per foot?
Yeah.
And the difference between that and what it would be that you've already contributed at $114
That's right.
per foot.
That's right.
For like 263 feet.
That's right.
So if the entire, so it would be 263 feet plus 175 feet that you're requesting the waiver for here. So that would be a total, whatever those times 72.
Yeah.
And you say the
That's
difference
right.
between that
That's the
amount.
logic.
Of what you already paid, yeah.
Yes, that was,
So the difference would be.
we don't necessarily have to do the math now, but
Yeah.
yes.
As long as we understand the actual
Yeah.
basis.
I used, yeah, I had 3104, but yes, somewhere in that area.
Oh, wait, you did two.
So it's 263 plus 175, that's the number of linear feet, 438 linear feet times $72, that's what he's saying.
The total is, but they've already paid some of it.
I think, Ted, I think you were using 200.
That's right.
He said 175 to 200, we weren't sure exactly.
Yes, and we can get the exact number of what that is.
536.
Okay, so what are the board's thoughts on the offer from Ted there?
I'm okay with that.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I just don't want to set, I'll go along with it too, but I just don't want to set a precedent where we're just allowing the developer to not pull the sidewalk, which is a violation of our ordinance requiring such a sidewalk without paying on the fee and over that. So I don't want to set us a precedent, which if we did this arrangement, it would.
Right, because it's an approved cost estimate for a construction cost of sidewalk, so, okay.
I would approve the waiver and also in favor of paying the fee in lieu.
Well, the board wouldn't take any action this evening, you would.
I know,
You
no
could,
reason you can't, yeah.
even though it has to go through the county.
Doesn't matter, but that's just the.
Yes, I just want to go back to that point that was requested for the ability to move ahead with construction, even though it's still going to go back for these reviews. Is that an issue for us or not?
I don't see that as an issue.
Okay.
Because this isn't related to like the interior site work, it's.
I even thought you would have done it without, just as a field change, to be honest.
Okay.
I was comfortable with that.
Without it going back and
Without going back to the
amending the
county, I
plan?
think they wanted a record plan recorded without the sidewalk, but I don't think it's even shown on the original plan.
It is. It
Okay.
is. Chris Peterson confirmed that it was shown on the original recorded plan. And he weighed it, and Chris weighed in on this, and he had no issue with granting a partial waiver.
But I
Okay.
don't think there's any reason you can't grant it tonight, and I think the county planning commission review is just from to read. I'm not having any comments on it.
Right. Okay. So is a board member therefore willing to make the motion? I mean, I'll have a go at it, so make a motion to approve the partial waiver request from section 722428, the subdivision and land development ordinance, for the already approved preliminary final subdivision plan for 20 Ellis Lane, removing the sidewalk on the north part of Ellis Lane from the entrance to the proposed development, and subject to a fee in lieu cost of $72 for the total linear footage of sidewalk not being installed, including the piece on Ellis Lane and Strasbourg Road. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any public comments or questions on the motion in the discussion? Doug? If you don't mind, it's just easier to hear you.
Good evening, Doug White, West Goshen. I agree with the waiver of, we're deleting the sidewalks. You don't need to do a land development for a new thing that's subtracting. I don't think they should pay any of the fee in lieu like we did last week, because this has come from a third party and that's telling them, hey guys, don't put it in. They were ready to put it in. And at the planning commission, we went back and forth. This is kind of penalizing the developer. So I don't think they should have to pay any fee in lieu because they were ready to do it. They had it on the plan. And now a third party PennDOT told them, no, don't, hey guys, don't do this. So that's my opinion. And it adds to the cost of the housing. I don't know. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Is there anyone else with a comment or question? Okay, then we're ready to take the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition?
No.
Okay, so the motion passes 4-1 with Ashley opposed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys can send the exact linear footage of those frontages, and in the letter, we can put the exact one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is item number 5, which is discussion and possible authorization to advertise the proposed park, recreation, and open space plan for West Goshen Township. Chris is going to introduce this.
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening is consideration to authorize the advertisement of the proposed park, recreation, and open space plan for the township. For some background information, at the December 19, 2023 meeting, the board awarded a proposal from Tool Recreation Planning for the development of this plan for the township. The township worked for a steering committee consisting of members of the board of supervisors, planning commission, park and recreation board, and sustainability advisory committee to prepare this document along with Tool Recreation Planning. Additionally, the township received a $45,000 vision partnership grant from Chester County to complete the project, and our grant advisor, Mark Gallant, is here this evening, and he has been actively involved in this and reviewed the plan document. And Tool from Tool Recreation Planning is present this evening to provide an overview. I just prepared a PowerPoint presentation that I'll bring up momentarily. The plan would serve as a supplement to the township's 2019 comprehensive plan and authorized for advertisement. The plan will be placed on the township website for public review, and there will be a 45-day public comment period, as well as reviews conducted by the township's own boards and committees, as well as the Chester County Planning Commission. A resolution would need to be adopted by the board at a future meeting.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, Ann. Good to see you again. So we have a presentation for us this evening.
We do.
About 15 minutes, is
Yep.
it? Okay.
We'll give you the high notes.
All right, sounds good.
Eric Sylvester, our landscape architect, is here from Viridian. And we have another team on Meliora that does conservation. So we're grateful to our advisory committee. We have Ashley and Tina Marie and Chris and Mark and Ken were on the committee. We very much appreciate all that they did. It was not a group thing by any means. There were lots of hard discussions to arrive at what we got to this evening. Okay. So why this plan? This township is really exceptional with its park system. We do planning all over the United States, and we truly are amazed at what you have here. And your system is about to double from 195 acres by adding Greystone with 163 acres. Okay. This plan was absolutely shaped by the residents. It was grounded in all of the research that we did. We looked at everything. We looked at parkland, acreage, facilities, program services, management, staffing, organization, financing, revenues, partnerships, so that we came up with a plan based on what we heard. We're grateful for Ken and Chris for really pushing community engagement. This community is exceptional on community engagement. Because of Ken's work, we got almost 1,000 surveys back. That's about double the usual. So we had a lot of input. Okay. So what we learned was pretty much 6 factors. That people wanted to be comfortable in the parks. Shade, and now with the weather we've had, shade emerged as really big. Safe places to walk and bicycle. Place for year-round indoor recreation. Pickleball was huge. We had a focus group at pickleball and tennis. The community wants to update facilities. They're beloved and aging, and it's starting to show, so it's time to update them. And parks for everyone, all ages, from infants, families, all the way up to senior citizens using the parks. They need to be for everyone. So based on what we heard, the vision that the community came up with through our advisory committee is that we would have a community in West Goshen where parks, nature, and creativity connect everyone, where conservation, renewal, and excellence shape the daily life and the township's legacy for generations to come. People involved not only cared about themselves, but about their children and their children's children and hundreds of years from now. Decisions that this board will make will affect people at well over 100 years from now. So we came up with 3 themes: conserve, enhance, and excel.
Conserve. West Goshen Township has, as Anne mentioned, a growing park system with varying habitats that West Goshen residents get to go out and enjoy. But it's also important that we protect the wildlife that is in these habitats. So tree plant, we're expanding on the 2023 tree plant study that had already been done. We're recommending to expand the tree canopy for that bird habitat, but also to combat the heat island effect we're seeing where all of the paved surfaces are rising the temperature. So in increasing that tree canopy, we can decrease the temperatures and also decrease the temperatures for the habitat and for the wildlife, but also for the West Goshen residents that are seeking shade in the parks. Stormwater as living labs. We want to make sure that we're meeting the MS4 and regulatory requirements that preserve the streams, our water quality, and that stream habitat. Climate resilience in the plan and in specific in text and in the specific park plans. We're identifying areas to be naturalized. We're calling them nectar nodes. That's a term we made up specifically for West Goshen. Just the idea that these are low-mow, native habitat areas that will require low maintenance, less maintenance than your turf lawn, 1 to 2 times mowing per year, as opposed to your turf lawn where it's every couple of weeks. The idea is that the township could also slowly roll these out over time, starting with something half the size of this room, smaller, bigger. And then as the maintenance and as the township gets comfortable with
this new management practice and how it's looking, then you can continue to expand this to your other parks. A great place that this could start at is a community park. It's a place where I'm sure most of you go quite often, so we start to get a feel for the look of that, and the township can, maintenance crew can start to get a handle on those maintenance practices. We're also recommending the township adopt an official map to protect those open spaces, to acquire new ones, and to create these trail connections that can interconnect your parks. The big one, Greystone, our first recommendation is that you do a management plan and an ecological assessment plan. That'll set you up for long-term success in your conservation efforts there. Enhance. You guys have a variety of parks with a variety of programming with different levels of use at each park. In the plan, we're wanting to build upon what West Goshen already does well, while also making system-wide recommendations and also individual park recommendations. Modernized playgrounds, creating dynamic play spaces that offer different types of play, challenge different motor skills, while still being inclusive so that everybody can be included in play. Some of your playgrounds are aging out, so we want you to be positioned to replace them with something great and something that gets our kids outdoors and wanting to keep coming back to the township parks. Expanding trails. The township's not currently walkable or bikeable system-wide, but there are opportunities to connect to your regional trails and to your adjacent townships, and also to interconnect your own park system within the township.
Eric, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
With expanding the trails, is there any consideration on tying into the East Goshen trail system?
Yeah.
Along Airport Road, we would add to that?
Yeah, I believe, I forget exactly where that trail lands, but we do identify.
Well, that's on the Atlantic, so yeah, it was fun for.
Yeah.
On the H4.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's great opportunity to connect to the joining townships, also inviting other townships into your park system. And then the addition of Greystone creates this great opportunity of connecting some of your parks. You have your Lambert Park, and then the addition of Greystone, and then Community Park. It really can create this great trail connection to the community, and kind of really connect some of your best parks. Integrating the arts in the parks. You already have the great program over at Community Park with the summer concert series. Expanding on that programming, different types of art programming in other parks can bring new visitors to different parks. And also bringing in physical art into the parks. Whether that be a sculpture or a mural. Art in the parks can really help to bring an identity to West Goshen parks. You want people, when they come to your parks, to know this is a West Goshen park, I'm in West Goshen. We identified Paley Pike Park, as you guys may know, it's right across the street over here, as potential for an iconic sculpture. As people are coming off to it too, they're driving by, they see this sculpture, they know that they're in West Goshen Township. And then that could also be reflected throughout the rest of the park system. Elevating Community Park, that's your flagship park, doing more of what I already said, and expanding the shade, adding in more seating. You already have benches and tables, but maybe there's movable seating. That gives to more flexible programming at the park. Rejuvenating Lambert Park. Throughout the process, meeting with some of you and some other groups, we identified the skate park as needing updating. The skate park's loved. Every time I go by, that it's being used. But we heard loud and clear that it does need to be updated. Also in the process, it was a meeting with the tennis groups and the pickleball groups. They both agreed that they needed their own spaces to participate in their sports. And we identified Lambert Park as a great place for pickleball, as it's already an active park with the skateboarding and then the baseball fields that are owned by the schools there. With that said, we did locate it in where the dog park is currently located. That dog park it's underutilized, and it's low performing. Those of you that have been out there, that you know that it's mostly dirt and there's not a lot of shade. But in going through master planning process of Greystone, we think there's opportunity there to relocate it here to dog park. Neighborhood comments. There was a few different parks that we identified as not having any programming or not having any programming opportunities, but there are opportunities for ecological benefit. One of these being Bicking Commons, doing some of what I already said, introducing native plants, managing the invasives, but then also coupling that with a couple of benches or Adirondack chairs where someone's going on a nightly walk, they can have a place to sit and rest. And then also introducing something like educational signage to show residents the township's efforts in sustainability, and also to explain the importance of those efforts. And the big one, Greystone. A well-maintained park. A well-maintained park protects you from higher costs down the road and reduces the risk for higher maintenance down the road. So our first steps that are urgent is doing the maintenance plan and doing the ecological assessment that I mentioned earlier. Doing those things will set you up for long-term success. And then after the assessment and the maintenance plan would come your master plan, where you would start to identify programming opportunities like the dog park as I mentioned, places of access, your trails, and then incorporating the maintenance plan and the ecological assessment plan into one final document, so that you kind of have these guiding principles for your short-term goals and your long-term goals to ensure the success of the Greystone Park and the Serpentine Banks.
Eric, did you have a chance, or are you aware of the fact that we had Natural Lands do an assessment of maintenance for the Serpentine Barrens in the park?
Yes.
Is it not adequate to address this need for stewardship maintenance plan?
Oh, we would build, it's important to build on that. It was done a little bit ago. And we would recommend building on the success of that plan. We work with Natural Lands all the time. And one of the things that we recommend is stewardship training within your park division, within Public Works. So you have a lot done on that. It's building on what you already have and doing it in conjunction with the master plan, because their stewardship plan was based on the site as is. So when you do a master plan, the site will change a little bit. And so you want the maintenance plan to reflect that.
Thank you.
Very well. Okay, next one. So that's the perfect segue. Maintenance. This is all about excellence. None of what you heard so far will work without excellence in management. What we're blown away by in this township is the support of the elected officials. It's loud and clear in the budget, in the financing, in the grantsmanship, the outside resources that this township captures to leverage local tax dollars, and the professional management of the manager, the Parks and Recreation management team, the Public Works Director. Everybody works together. It's very collaborative. It's not silos. everybody works together. So what you get is a big bang for your tax dollar here. All these people work professionally, passionately, and very skillfully in making sure that everything is to the standards and to the extent that you want as residents here. So your Parks and Recreation system is a jewel. We heard over and over, people move here because of your Parks and Recreation system. We did the plan over in the borough, and what we heard was, we love that community park in West Goshen, so a lot of people from the borough are coming over to use your park. So we're recommending that that continue. Okay. So moving from planning to action here, from the vision that you heard, is that the plan has implementation tables in it that outlines all the steps that we recommend. That it's phased. You can't do everything at once. It's going to happen over 10 years, 10 years or even more. And that we prioritize actions. You have some things that are on your plate that you really have to pay attention to now, like Greystone, the trail system. People are really interested in that. And continuing to develop a funding strategy that works. We're looking at township support grants. We're looking at outside revenues through grants, fees, rentals, sales, things like that, to balance your investment in tax dollars. Okay. So what we've come up with is, well, you've heard a lot. Where do we start? So what we're recommending is the tree planting program to support what the work of the Sustainability Committee. We're recommending that that we build upon what Sean was saying, the stewardship plan for Greystone, and doing a master plan that's within the context of the system overall. Greystone is transformational, and adding a facility like that, it's not in and of itself. It needs to be integrated with Lambert Park. How do those parks work together? How should they be improved together so you spend your money wisely, not duplicating anything or leaving anything out? That we're recommending some low fixes, easy fixes, like in Community Park. People want some benches, some shade, especially where people walk. Those are easy fixes. So then every time I get off 202 and I see Paoli Pike Park, I kind of drool because it's such a gem in the waiting. And we recommend that that be a major launch to do something with Paoli Park. Would make this township look great. That we're back to trails. Since we did our draft, we're recommending forming a trail alliance, maybe with the borough and with the Transportation Management Authority and with county trail planning, unified, because this could be a little trail hotbed here. We would love your legacy in Parks and Recreation to turn on the arts, that we think that your department can be Pennsylvania's model for arts integrated into Parks and Recreation. It would be amazing to see that happen. Updating the mandatory dedication ordinance, because you're moving to a parkland standard of 15 acres per thousand, up from 7, and that matters in terms of your mandatory dedication and fees. We got a question from the Friends group. They're kind of waiting in the wings and want to be energized. So we provided a strategy on how to do that. And to review the plan progress annually. We're suggesting that you look at this plan right before budget season so you could figure out where are the opportunities, or what do we need to do now. And we're recommending that you do small things well, rather than a lot of things not so well. You have to pick and choose where you're going to go, and we think this is what your jump start is. Okay. So by 2035, we're looking at, if you get to implement this plan, a premier park and open space system, a walkable, connected community, a fiscally responsible system, which you already have. But sometimes when you start leaping into these bigger things, that's where the financing can go awry. So we're recommending continuing that. That you have remarkable parks and programs. Tom Steins, our recreation programmer, does amazing work as a one-man band pretty much. That continue. And that you continue to have a respected department. This is a lot on your plate, and we recognize that. So we have the words of caution, do small things well, and pick what you want to do. And a community that continues to be proud of its park system. Our almost 1,000 survey respondents repeated that over and over. We did interviews, focus groups, we did catch up with people in parks and at facilities, and that message was loud and clear. Your residents are really proud of your park system. It's a real tribute to the Park and Rec Department, the Board of Supervisors, and the Township Manager. So thank you. We'll open it up. Oh, sorry, this is what we asked. Adopt the plan, move ahead with the jump start, and direct your governance tools like mandatory education. And we ask the board to be leaders in the vision. Yeah, you already are. It's evident in your budget and your support, your budget messages. So we ask that continue. I just want to make a plug. On the brochure, there's a QR code. We needed to wait to have this meeting to post the plan. So the plan will be posted this week on the QR code. So if you use the QR code, you won't see it until after this meeting and it gets posted.
Thank you, Anne. So, board, do you have questions?
Yes, I do. Chris, I wonder if you could describe to us the process for moving forward with review and approval of this plan.
So under the municipality's planning code, it would get reviewed by, there would be a 45-day review period. It would get reviewed by the Chester County Planning Commission. I'm not expecting a lengthy review letter, considering they've been involved in the process since the beginning, and Mark is nodding at me, so probably an accurate statement. But they've been involved through the Vision Partnership Program process. It'll also get reviewed as an addendum to the comprehensive plan through the Township's Planning Commission. I believe that's the only required body for it to go through, but it should also get reviewed by the Park and Recreation Board as well.
Also has to be sent to adjacent municipalities.
And adjacent
and school
municipalities,
districts.
yes.
Let me follow up on that. Okay, Elaine?
Yeah, I spent hours reading your study, and I just want to go on record as saying that I don't think anybody proofread this.
Oh, you saw that after you looked at it, it went through a whole new editing process, and there's a current plan where what you saw, it all got fixed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
I apologize that you saw that pre-edit, yes.
But my one question is, there was the omission of 3 cemeteries and Pierce School. As far as green space is concerned, is that being taken into account?
Yes, we're producing that tomorrow. That map will be updated with Pierce. I think what happened on that was we thought it was in West Whiteley, but it really needs to be on that map, and we're adding the cemeteries as well. So you'll see an accurate map. We'll give it to Chris to proof it before we put in the plan.
Great,
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board with a question?
No, I just want to say thank you to Ann and your whole team, because this was just a really creative and rewarding process to go through. And there was a lot of collaboration, and the input from the residents was just phenomenal, and you guys did a great job, and I couldn't be happier with the final result. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thank you for being part of it, contributing on your duties. Thank you.
I have one follow-up with Eric. I think mentioned that the current dog park up at Lambert is, I actually think it's quite well used. Maybe if you've been there, it's not as well used when you visit, I don't know, but it seems that some people do use it. am I correct in assuming that you were suggesting actually that space would be best used for outdoor pickleball, and that the dog park itself could be relocated or a space found within the Greystone Park system for a dog area? Or were you just saying that the Greystone is a natural place for people to walk dogs and not actually have a dog park?
Exactly what you had said first. I was suggesting Greystone has great potential to have an awesome dog park. Also, I think community park would also be a great candidate.
So because Greystone's on the north side of the township, really is no specific dedicated dog park facility here towards this end of the township. So you think 2 dog park locations would be part of the general plan?
You could do that. And one of the reasons that we're suggesting that you do the Greystone master plan and the Lambert master plan simultaneously, because you can't plan each one of these parks separately. They're part of a system. So by looking at them jointly, you'd be able to figure that out. And actually, in that planning, you would consider community park as well. Should there be 1 or 2 dog parks? Is pickleball would have to go in Lambert or community park? So by looking at all of those together, you could figure that out.
Just a question related to your experience with parks. I mean, pickleball has a reputation for being something that people love or hate because of the noise it generates, particularly if the court's located close to residential streets. I know in the master plan you have that longer term perhaps the township should look to have some kind of indoor park capability amenity, which would naturally, in my mind, say pickleball would be the best place for that. Have you experience of a township municipality in Pennsylvania that has established pickleball in an indoor facility?
Actually, it's become a great business opportunity. That what we're seeing is really the privatization of pickleball, and stores that aren't there anymore, like Bed Bath & Beyond, furniture stores, office, or what you see in malls that are empty, are great spaces for pickleball, and it really does work with what you're saying, with the noise. Like planning pickleball outdoors requires a lot of work on what direction they go, because of how the noise goes, all of that. There have been municipalities that have banned outdoor pickleball for all the reasons they were saying. So any discussion of pickleball will be a major factor in your master planning.
But you found out, you find that typically it's done through private enterprise, not
all the indoor ones. There are places around, like the Greater Plymouth Community Center has indoor pickleball in gyms, but they're in gyms. They're not separate pickleball courts.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is the conflict between an existing use of a gym versus a new use coming in with pickleball. So you would have to do that as well. The privatization of pickleball has been amazing because pickleball is very social. It's community building for an age group that hasn't been very active. So the private areas have food and sometimes alcohol, but they've become very profitable. If you find one and when you're driving around, you'll see in the daytime the parking lot's packed.
Thank you.
Another question. Can you give any consideration of a pickleball court at Paoli Park where the underused basketball court is?
We actually talked about that, and we brought up the concern that Eric mentioned about its closeness to the residents. That sound really travels. I could give you an example of how far it travels. I was in a hotel on the 5th floor across a road where a pickleball complex was, and with my door closed, I could hear the pickleball. So putting it at Paoli would need serious work to see if it would work.
There's also the issue of access. There's no really great way to access Paoli by walking, and there's not a significant amount of area really for parking as well to support the
following up from that, in your Appendix A, park profiles, you go through each one of the parks we have currently and also what your recommendations are. And I'm kind of intrigued by this Paoli Pike profile and what you're recommending as being a gateway into the township. Can you talk about that a little bit? What you have in mind, what you're suggesting? It's on page 93 of your appendix.
Yeah. Well, we have a big soft spot for Paoli Park because it is your gateway. And having that recognized as a special, this is West Goshen. When people get off 202 and you see it right there. And so the design of it needs to be attractive, and it should include public art and a mix of facilities that the neighborhood would use. As Eric mentioned, the people walking to that park is really important. So we had a focus group that included neighbors who wanted, they wanted facilities that they could use in that park. Places where they could sit, where they could gather, where kids could play. So it needs a really special, unique design, untypical of anything you'd see in a park. It's a very special place.
Part of this too is the idea of the gateway, where there should be some synergy between Paoli Pike Park and the township frontage here over on Paoli Pike. I think it really would connect the two spaces and really make it a beautiful gateway for the township.
One of the pictures that Eric showed, if you saw a couple with a mosaic wall behind it, it goes with the art that we think is your legacy here. That image is from a little park in an alley in Doylestown. And all it is a mosaic. It's a tile mosaic. And our photo was people getting married in front of it. So the beauty and the significance of art in your parks, it really does matter. And art is kind of, it's not prominent in any of your facilities. It will matter. The people will start getting married in front of it.
We talked about maybe having a sign there, like a West Goshen, like a really tasteful, nice sign.
Nice sign.
With maybe like some,
And also, sculpture.
We talked about having sculptures throughout the parks. I think it would be really incredible. I think that we talked about the use of social media, how people really love to post on Instagram with really interesting pieces of art. It would bring people to the parks for many reasons, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We did, one of our focus groups was with the university, and the art department had representatives there, and they're very interested in doing things like this, like installations, rotating installations, but not only that, but actually doing the programming, because not everybody likes to play soccer. That some kids really like music and art, and growing our next generation of artists that they could contribute to that.
I think it'd be nice to use our local residents too, who are artists, having their talents.
Yeah, the borough created a public art commission. Borough of Westchester has a public art commission. They do, and they actually incorporated into some of their ordinances when new buildings are put forward to have public art be part of it. So that's also an example you can look at.
Yeah, that's a good mention. Yeah.
Thank you.
Another question. Just in that same section of your park upgrades, park profiles, you also talk about Fresh Meadows Commons. I know a lot of folks here are here for that. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on that, Fresh Meadows.
Sure. So in that specific park profile, that thing I talked about with nectar nodes of naturalization, and I know there's concerns about fresh meadows, and that's kind of why I brought up community park as being maybe the first place where this naturalized nectar node area would occur first. So the people, folks concerned with fresh meadows, the potential plans there could go and see what that might actually look like in person instead of reading it in text or seeing it on the plan. Maybe it's harder to understand. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Sorry.
What we're talking about there is creating natural areas, using native plantings so that the site would be managed. It's not a wild, it's not wilderness by any means. It's a planned well-maintained area that's naturalized with native Pennsylvanian plantings. So you would see activity like butterflies and bees. It would have shade and beauty. And from an ecological perspective, it's healthy and fits in with our recommendation on concern. Mowing is a big, it takes a lot of water, it takes a lot of mowing, it takes a lot of maintenance, it takes a lot of care. And what we're suggesting is that Part B will continue to be well maintained, but as more of a naturalized area. So there would still be plenty of grass and beauty for people to sit and use as they like, combined with the conservation portion of it.
So we're going to have that as an agenda item next after this, we get through the full part conversation here. So I don't know if you have a timetable that you have to leave, but it'd be great if you could wait until we get to that agenda item, and then we can have the conversation with folks who are here about that specifically. So I am going to open it up now to anyone here in attendance to have, if you have a general question about the park plan that Anne and Eric presented. Fresh Meadows piece we're going to get to in a minute is a separate agenda item. So any questions specific to the kind of conversation that we've had? Dorothy, would you mind coming up to them?
Dorothy Burton, Sustainability Advisory Committee and Goshen President. I just wanted to note that we just planted, our committee just planted 9 trees at Dog Park, Miller Park. So please don't turn it into a pickleball court.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you. They need shade.
Well, we talked to people that it is very well used. There were a lot of people there. When I showed up to take pictures for our committee, everybody gave me the stink eye. Like, who are you? What are you doing here? Why are you taking pictures? And I'm like, I'm a friend, I'm not an enemy. I'm here to put some trees. And they're like, oh, trees, we need trees. It's so hot here, we need shade. So that's what we wound up doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else with a general question? Doug?
Doug White, West Goshen. Please avoid putting any kind of dog park in Jerakian Park. It's supposed to be a passive park. Did you know about that?
I hear you.
Yeah, it's from the 2008 conditional use. It's supposed to be passive, only trails. And if you put a dog park, you're going to have to like clear an area, and so put it somewhere else.
Okay.
Just keep it where it is.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yes, the lady at the back.
I'm Mary Miller, and I'm here for the Fresh Meadows discussion, but I just wanted to ask to be clear, if you pass this resolution, that it's not going to negate and override the discussion on Fresh Meadows that's after this.
That's correct.
Thank you.
They're also not passing a resolution tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is just a presentation on the plan.
Anyone else with questions about the plan? Stephen?
Yeah, I'll try to make my questions brief and to the point. Thank you for an amazing presentation. My first question is, in your survey, were there any questions devoted to asking the residents about their value on historic sites? Are you aware of any historic sites in our township? Are you aware of any heritage? Thank you, we appreciate that. That's due to the efforts of our community here. Are you aware of the heritage sites in our community? Did you do a focus group with any organizations regarding our history? Are you aware that this was a Quaker community of abolitionists and that there was an underground railroad network in our community? And that Nathaniel Curry is the great-great-grandfather to Byron Rustin, who ran a station on the Underground Railroad?
We did not do a focus group, but we looked at the cultural aspects because it's really, and we're very interested in your site. We looked at that. it's historically important and the location's important. It has a connection.
And a lot of what I hear you guys say is nature, sustainability,
Yes.
the Quaker values, where nature working in harmony and balance
Yes.
with nature. And there's a political and leadership element to teaching that history as well as
Yeah.
nature and sustainability.
We've seen your great programming for the American Revolution too, in partnership with East Goshen. That's really remarkable. So what we see important is not only the physical sites, but the educational and the programming sites. And if it's interesting and fun, people learn more. So that we're very impressed by the programming you're doing for the 250. That kind of thing needs to continue.
Yeah, and our historic commission did a phenomenal job on that.
Yeah. It was really very impressive.
Okay, is there anyone else with a comment? All right, then I'll look to a board member to make a motion. If we could look to authorize to advertise the proposed park recreation open space plan for West Goshen Township. Is the board member willing to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Tina, is a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ashley. Are there any public comments or questions on the motion? Okay, then we'll take the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Well, thank you, Anne and
Thank
Eric.
you
If you
very
wouldn't mind
much.
staying,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully you'll have a chance to contribute to the next agenda item.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, we're up to agenda item number 6, discussion regarding the proposed lawn to meadow conversion project at the Fresh Meadows Park. So before the board this evening is a discussion regarding the lawn to meadow conversion project at Fresh Meadows Park. This project has been discussed by the Sustainability Advisory Committee. Park and Recreation Board recommended the project at their meeting on April the 15th. It was discussed by the Board of Supervisors at meetings on May the 21st and June the 16th. The board's packet and available on the website for public review for this meeting was a letter dated May the 14th, which was sent to the residents of the Fresh Meadows development. 90 letters were sent out and none were returned as undeliverable. A revised plan was prepared by the Sustainability Advisory Committee, changing the original plan, reducing the proposed meadow area to 1 acre from the original, to 1 acre, maintaining a 1.3 acre central mode field. Results from the survey were provided, where there were 35 responses from the 90 letters that were sent out, which is a 39% response rate, which is pretty good. Obviously, the board is aware that as folks have looked at this in more detail, there is some folks who definitely don't like the idea of a meadow plantings in this area, and we can obviously open up in a minute for a discussion. I just want to turn to Chris. I mean, one of the reasons we moved forward with this as a kind of initial project was the availability of a small grant.
That's correct.
And there was a deadline to submit for that, I believe.
Yes, it was during the month of May, then there was a deadline to submit the landowner agreement at June 26th, I believe it was.
Okay, so we did that, and that is in place should we decide to move forward with this.
That's correct.
Is there any penalty if we decide not to pursue it, to your knowledge?
No, there's no penalty to my knowledge. And I'll just note this. Yeah, there's been no cost that have been incurred to the township. And Mr. Chairman, I'll note that my cover member, I did make an error. It was not the May 21st meeting, it was May 5th. I apologize for that.
All right. So at this point, having introduced the topic, I'm looking to the board to see if you have any thoughts or questions or issues at this point, and then we'll open it up for a broader discussion.
You mentioned a grant. Can you tell us what the grant amount was?
I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $11,000. It was a small, so essentially what occurred was the Chester County Conservation District has a grant through the PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for a number of these projects throughout the county. They selected this one as a project. It was reviewed as outlined in the materials, and there was a small cost to the township, almost about $1,800, and then the remainder would be all done by the Conservation District.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, so this point, what I'd like to do is hear from folks who are here specifically to share your thoughts or issues about what was being proposed. So if you just raise your hand if you'd like to come up and say a few words. Ms. Miller?
Hi. I had a couple things. First, I did want to note, because you mentioned the survey. The majority of my neighbors did not get the survey. I don't know, since the airport road post office burned down, our mail is sketchy. And I know I've met a number of neighbors that never got it. I photocopied it and gave it to some of my neighbors. And then just this past week, I went around and still neighbors didn't know about it, so I spent my own money to make copies of the plan and hand deliver it to all my neighbors. So it is, your results are skewed because most of the neighborhood did not get the message, including neighbors directly connected to the field. So I just wanted to point that out before I got started. So I've been in the neighborhood for 23 years, and for the last 10 years, and I've worked full-time from home. I just retired, but before that, 10 years full-time from home. My office directly looks over the field, so I see the field. It gets used a lot. Obviously not as much during the day when kids are at school, but it gets used a lot. Even adults use it, kids use it, families use it. It is a well-used field and not just a little center portion. Kids are all over that field. So I specifically have issue with the plan because Fresh Meadows is unique in that it sits directly in the middle of a neighborhood. So to me, there's a lot of safety concerns for the children in that neighborhood. And also for our home values, like that bothers me too. Like I said, I have a direct view of the park. But I think the most important thing about that park is that it sits in the middle of a neighborhood. It's not on the side of a neighborhood. It's not, near a neighborhood. It is in the middle of the neighborhood. And a lot of us bought our homes because of that nice big open field. It is a wonderful resource. And I'm devastated to think about it not being there. So anyway, some of the issues that I have specifically are rodents. Like a meadow is going to attract rodents, and we already have many people in the neighborhood dealing with rodent issues. Ticks. The meadow is going to be a lot of ticks. We're having a lot of problems with ticks as it is now. And now you're surrounding a play area with ticks is all I see. And that's just not safe for the children. Deer, it's going to attract deer. We already have a problem with deer. I'm a crazy person that is actually out sometimes at 2 in the morning chasing them away from my landscaping. Again, I'm directly across. So it's going to attract deer. And that's an issue not just for, it's going to destroy more of our landscaping, but it's going to bring more ticks, but also more deer coming into that field. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's the neighborhood, Oxford Road it's a circle, so it directly goes all around. So now you've got, teen drivers coming and going at dusk hours when deer running across that road. I just see it as a danger. I know when my son first started driving, he actually called me from out front because he didn't know what to do because there was a deer standing where he normally parks. So, it's an issue. Also, I fear, because we just found poison ivy in our yard, poison ivy pops up everywhere. So if you put this meadow around where kids play, there's going to be poison ivy popping up, and even worse could be poison hemlock or wild parsnip. And just touching those can burn your skin. So I fear having those kind of things, and then kids are in the middle of this throwing a frisbee, a ball, and they go chase it. Ticks, poison ivy, poison hemlock, it just seems very dangerous to me. With the recent drought, I'm worried about, possible fire hazard of these meadows in the middle of a neighborhood. I know seeds blowing, these meadow plants are meant to reseed, and you get these crazy winds, especially across that field. If you ever saw it, especially on a snowy day, the wind goes crazy across that field. That's going to blow these seeds into people's lawns. And I have concern about being an eyesore. It's just like a big wilderness area, which might be pretty elsewhere, but in the middle of a neighborhood, I feel like it could bring our home values down. And honestly, I understand there was a grant, but just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. But also, I mean, I would recommend, I know it was mentioned, like, you know, how it appears when you first come into the, you know, about Paley Park. I would say you've got a huge grass area in that where 202 South, where you get off, and when you get on to 202 South, right there across from Target, or next to Target, and that is an eyesore, I think, coming into the township. It's always covered in weeds and half-dead trees. So if you have a grant and you want to use that money, I feel like that would be a great place to plant a meadow. It's not going to encroach on, it's not going to cause an issue with, you know, a neighborhood. You still get to use your grant, and it might make the place look a little nicer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to make some comments?
I'm Barb Small, and I've lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. We're an original home there. And my grandchildren also live in the neighborhood. We have walked up to the bus stop with the grandchildren many, many, many times over the last 10 years. And we know that the kids run around while they're waiting for the bus. That's the only bus stop in the whole neighborhood. So all the kids congregate there in the morning and at the end of the school day. My biggest concern when I'm listening to this is the word that was used, I think, irrevocable trust, irrevocable grant, where if this is done, it has to be maintained, it has to continue. So in 10, 20 years, we won't be there, but I'm concerned that if it doesn't work out, you still have to have it as this meadow. Is that my understanding?
No.
Well, we would.
It's maybe you always
yeah.
have the right to terminate.
Exactly.
Refund money.
Oh, you have to give the money back.
Yeah, landowner agreement gives the township the right to decide they don't want to keep it as that.
And would the township be willing to do that?
That's a policy decision.
Yeah. If it was causing issues and problems and all the rest of it, and the township didn't want to maintain it, yeah, we would have to, the future board at the time would say we're no longer interested in doing this. I mean, the park's changed, the park's an evolving plan.
Well,
so.
that's what I'm seeing. So many things are changing here and there. Well, if it doesn't work out, is it something that you're willing to?
I would say if it doesn't work out, then obviously a board would be willing to address whatever was the problem.
I believe that's what occurred when the Public Works building was constructed and the old baseball field was demoed for that project. It was funded by grant funding.
That was had to be repaid?
Yeah, I believe so.
Were you here for that when that was here? Small?
Well, we've been here 40 years, so probably, but I don't remember.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just address what you said earlier? Because I think it really sums up a lot of the feedback that we've been getting. You know, people have been sending in emails, and you made a lot of really good points. So I just want to sort of backtrack for a second and sort of talk about how we got to this point. When we were first approached, the board was first approached with this project. I know that many people on this board, our first concern, I won't speak for the board, I'll say my first concern was the neighbors, because I know that this park is right in the middle of your neighborhood, and I actually immediately thought of my own neighborhood because we have a huge baseball field that is right outside my house. That is just open field. It's where we all go and meet up with our neighbors. It's where we watch fireworks. It's where the kids play. It's where we walk across to get our kids to their bus stop too. So I'm very familiar with the attachment that goes to these sorts of properties. And so when we were talking about the survey going out, you know, it was one of my biggest concerns was, okay, well, the first thing that I need to know is how the neighbors are going to feel about this project before I feel comfortable moving forward with anything. And those discussions, if I'm remembering correctly, said, well, it came back sort of mixed. The survey came back sort of with mixed results. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. It seemed like 50% of the people were in favor of it. It seemed like half of the people weren't. And so I really appreciate everybody voicing their concerns about exactly, why you might not be supportive of this project. I agree with you that I think there are a lot of opportunities across the township to plant these meadows. I don't think that a grant should be like, it's the tail wagging the dog sort of, and we shouldn't be, doing this just because we can. I agree with you. And so, before we, continue to hear from the residents, I just want you to know that that has always been on our radar, and this is by no means a done deal. I'm certainly withdrawing my support based on the feedback from all of you.
Thank you, Ashley. Is there somebody, gentleman? Yes, sir.
Bill Barnett. My wife and I have lived across the street from the park for 40 years, and I'll just add to what I think the others said, a few new things. I'm more concerned about a people security issue. Landscaping can hide animals and it can hide people as well, and that allows a hiding place within the neighborhood for someone for other purposes. And then the other thing is, I don't see how adding the meadow enhances the current use of the park in the neighborhood. And I don't even see how it enhances the park in terms of the other residents of West Goshen, that they would even want to come into the neighborhood for that. So, and then lastly, I don't think, I've read through the feedback and I don't see it as mixed. I don't see where anybody particularly thinks it's a good idea. So, and I did as well submit a letter to the board, but thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, just looking at the survey results, generally speaking, the majority were okay with planting trees around the edges and adding benches.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Trees, not the meadow.
Benches, yeah. There wasn't anything.
Meadow is a different subject.
Right. I'm just saying, overall, that's where people were coming from.
Can I present some
Sure.
data from the survey?
Yeah.
So, excuse me. Question number 4 asked, the proposed improvements would add several trees and a meadow featuring native plants. What percentage of the park would you like to remain open space? So the responses were 17% don't change anything. Oh, and I should add that we got 35 responses. So 17% of 35 people said don't change anything. 55% of those people would like 75% open space. 3% preferred meadow to trees at 50% open space. 17% preferred trees to meadow at 50% open space. And 8% preferred predominantly meadow with some trees at 25% open space. So although 75% open space was the majority opinion, the plan that is responsive to grant requirements of 1 acre minimum meadow results in about 55% open space. So the park is about 290 feet wide. So the width difference at 75%, it would be 218 feet wide by 344 feet long. At 55%, it was 160 feet wide by 340 feet long. The width difference is about 58 feet between 55% and 75%. And what was I going to say? The 1.2 or 1.3 acres of open turf, which would remain, and I don't know if you guys saw the latest plan, would be more than adequate for informal activities that you described in the survey results, which included walking, dog walking, kickball, football, frisbee, catch, soccer, kites, and neighborhood gathering. So those are the statistics. And I just feel
as the chair of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, that the township's responsibility is to balance recreation, environmental stewardship, neighborhood character, and the opportunities afforded by outside grant funding. And that's what's been reiterated in the Park and Rec Open Space Plan. I will also add that Fresh Meadows, if you can understand the irony of us arguing about putting a meadow in a development called Fresh Meadows, is not the only neighborhood park. We have quite a few parks that are within neighborhoods. One of them is Hamlet Crest Park, and we planted about 250 trees in that park. We did not do a neighborhood survey. We just went ahead and did the project. And the neighbors were actually very, very supportive and came out and helped us plant during some of those phases. So, you know, it was very successful. And I also want to add that we really did take the survey to heart. We wanted to do the survey. The time frame was kind of blurred though, and I have the whole time frame, and I will not bore you with what happened from January until June, but the grant, which we didn't know about when we first undertook this and started talking about doing a survey, there was no grant. That didn't come to us until, let's see, I think it was April. And we'd already been talking based on the draft Park and Rec open space plan that we had seen. That was the impetus for this project. It was Tool Recreation Planning's plan for the park that we saw that had nectar nodes and trees on both sides. In fact, there were trees planted on top of a gas pipeline, which we caught, and it got corrected. So, so we started the planning, and then we were approached. One of our members was approached by CCCD, Chester County Conservation District, alerting her about the availability of a grant. And we thought, okay, why not? Why not look into this, which is what we did. We looked into the grant, and once we knew more about it, we thought, okay, we can do this. We were not allowed to do the survey to you guys before the grant was finalized and before much time had passed, because we were waiting to put a draft plan in front of the Parks and Rec Board. So it was really a timing thing whereby the plan kind of happened before we were permitted to send the survey to you. And so by then, we think the grant had fallen into place, and that dictated the 1.0 acres of meadow. So it was very much a timing thing, and it was never done with any ill intent to, in fact, it was done looking to solicit the opinions of all of you. That was our intention, but timing doesn't always work out, and that's where we are. So thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Okay, so if people want to know, okay, come on up, please.
My name's Linda Braun. I live not on Park, but I'm a 40-year resident, and we never got a survey. I would like to at least ask, maybe you do another, because I'm only here because this nice lady put a thing in my mailbox this week, and I think there's a lot of people that were not aware of all these plans, and I think maybe we should revisit it.
Thank you. Yes, Lee.
Hi, I'm Diana Brannon. I don't live on the park, but I live in the neighborhood. And I just want to address a couple things. We heard things tonight about, wanting trees for shade, claiming that our park is underused. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. We first moved here, we moved from the city, and I still remember the first time. We hadn't moved into the house yet, but I dropped my son off right at the park. He was 5 years old, because all the kids in the neighborhood were playing football. And it was just a pickup game in the middle of the day. And I remember thinking, wow, this is an amazing place to raise a family. It's how he met his friends. It was a wide open, wonderful, safe space where I could leave him there, work on the house, because I can't see it from my house. But it's really not underused. It's used every day for kids that are going to the bus. It's exactly how the neighborhood likes it. We had a party there one time. We met many more neighbors. It was really an amazing space for them. But I like the idea of trees, but I do want to say that I do have concerns about the maintenance of this project and the life cycle of this whole project. Based on challenges that we're experiencing in the neighborhood. As I've expressed to the township manager, directly behind our house, we have a property where the backyard's not maintained. The grass is currently nearly 2 feet high, and weeds and poison ivy historically and currently are growing over our shared fence line, creating a pest issue. We have chipmunks, raccoons I have seen, and also foxes, deer, squirrels. More urgently, there's a large structurally dead tree fully on that property that hangs directly over our house within 15 feet of our house. It's over 70 feet tall. We've had an arborist report confirming that it's a safety hazard, and our homeowner insurance has noted that the owners are fully liable if anything happens. We have been told this is a private matter though. But just my point is that because they have the authority to step in, I would like to put that on record that I would still want the removal of that dead tree, but my broader point is that trees grow, they age, they die. The township is hesitant to enforce basic property maintenance codes on a vacant lot. It's difficult to feel confident the township will have the resources or the consistency to manage a new neighborhood meadow and its trees over the long term. I'm happy to provide any additional paperwork that I've already provided, but I think my point is the maintenance and the safety of the residents by bringing this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, would you just comment on that situation with respect to how the township maintains trees it has the right to maintain?
Under the township's code, we are responsible for enforcing trees in the right of way or those that can impact the road right of way. To Ms. Brand's concern, we had code enforcement go out and look at the non-go within the fall zone. And if trees are a private property issue, they're not subject to the jurisdiction under the International Property Maintenance Code. So that is why I told you it is a private property matter. And I also said to you that we are going to be enforcing property maintenance code where we can. Our code enforcement department is handling that, but there's nothing we can do about the trees, and we can't insert ourselves into a private property matter.
If we get issues with trees that are on township property, we have probably dealt with by our public works, correct?
Correct. We actually just dealt with one on 5 Points Road yesterday.
Thank you.
As far as the issue about the grass growing, it's what, 12 inches or higher than there can be cited.
That's correct.
So the issue about the grass can be addressed.
Yeah, they did. They moved the front wall, but backyard is not. It's 2 feet high. It's
Well,
covering back the door. Because you can't see it from the street, but they did not come to the backyard.
We can't enter private property, is from what we can see from the street. So if you provide documentation of that, we can enforce accordingly, but we can only do what we can do from the public right of way.
And my point is that it's not maintained property. So we can't enforce things because you can't see it, but then if we're going to have a property that is wide out in the open, not maintained, that's going to cause more problems or just more.
So the landowner agreement with the grant requires maintenance, and as Ms. Toole stated, I mean, our park and recreation areas are well maintained.
Is there anyone else with a comment or question? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ben Atkins. I live in Fresh Meadows. I do not live right on the field. I live at the bottom of the neighborhood. However, I am in that field every single day, most days, more than once, walking my dog. I'm not going to reiterate everything that Mary had said as far as rodents, as far as ticks. However, just being said, and I apologize, I don't recall what your name. One of the things that was said was it will attract butterflies, it will attract bees. I'm allergic to bees. And one other note, I also did not get the survey. I would be very interested if that survey was redone. I think you would get a lot more response than you did the first time. I understand that it was a timing issue, but again, most of the neighbors that I spoke to in our neighborhood, we did not get the survey. So we did not have an opportunity to present our thoughts in our input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. At this point, I'd really like to, if you've got a new comment that we haven't already heard, that's what's important, so just so we can wrap this up.
I'm Vince Coletti. I live on Oxford Road. My wife and I have been there 39 years. We're original owners. And one of the things I'm concerned about is, first of all, I echo what my neighbors have said here tonight. Total agreement. But let's say this goes forward and we start seeing rodents and ticks, having all this problem with deer and whatnot, being overrun. What's the plan to resolve that, to treat it? Has anybody thought about that or have any ideas? Has that happened in other areas, or maybe you've done this? I don't know.
Okay.
But I think it's something to think about. And the idea of a meadow and everything might be a good idea. I don't think it's good there. There's not enough land. As someone who has grown up around fields, I grew up around thoroughbred horses my whole life. And I know what it's like working in that kind of environment. There's a lot going on that you don't see, trust me. And I just think that you need to take another look at this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Again, we're looking for a new comment, something we haven't heard before.
My name is David Swan, 40-year resident, original owner in Fresh Meadows. The only thing that I would like, I agree with my neighbors with the ticks and all that other stuff, but I don't think any of us are against planting trees, the trees, and along with the trees, maybe some really nice park benches that we can go there and enjoy and sit. And also if we could do something about in the bus stop there, improve that with, say, some benches or a covering or something that would look really nice there. It would improve the site.
It's a school bus stop.
But I don't think, I'm sorry?
It's a school bus stop.
Yes, school bus stop. And also, along the same line, I don't know if you could put pressure on the school board, but the older children that go to East and to Fugit have to get picked up on Paley Pike, right out the main entrance. They could swing in, pick the children up at the same bus stop, and because they're at different times, at different ages. And one of the exceptions on the plan that the lady put up, that she felt that there was underutilization. There really isn't much there other than what people want to make it in the neighborhood. In other words, if you want to take your children over there and have a little pickup ball game or frisbee or whatever, there's nothing organized there, where if you had some benches and things like that placed in there, it would improve the accessibility of using the park that way. And I also wanted to mention, I did send a letter to the Mr. Bayshore, and I did appreciate the response back. So they are open, you guys are open, and we're not negative, and you're doing a good job. So, the survey didn't get to us either, and but our tax bills get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to try to summarize a little bit where we are. We've heard obviously a lot of input saying Meadows, not a good location for it. I like there was, Ann and Eric suggested that maybe the best way forward for the township when it comes to Meadows is to either find a space at the community park or somewhere else within the township to give it a go somewhere where it's not as impactful to a neighborhood and see what kind of issues it either brings or doesn't bring to long-term enjoyment of our park system. I did hear, I just want to test, I did hear that most folks seem amenable to the idea of some shade trees and benches, presumably along the perimeter of the park, away from obviously coming in the pipeline. We don't want it blocking bus access and everything else, but at least some perimeter piece of the park would be a good location for shade trees that ultimately down the road would provide mature trees that could provide shade space for those who are not running around after a ball but wanted to sit down for a while. So that's kind of the main summary I've heard in terms of feedback. Does anybody disagree with it here on the board?
No, I just,
I have something, I just want to say, based on the feedback from the residents, I am withdrawing my support for the meadow, but what I'd like to suggest is that send out a new survey, not discussing the meadow, but discussing what the residents want there, and get a consensus on, do you want benches, do you want trees, and that's it. And that's what I would recommend, and make sure that everybody gets the survey this time, but different questions, totally different aspect, and addressed from a different way. What do you want to see there? That's my suggestion.
Okay, so,
I've also seen a lot of comments about a walk path linking one end of Oxford to the other.
So I don't want to put a downer, if you like, on these ideas for improvements, but if what we're really focused on tonight is, you know, does the board want to just cancel the plan for the meadow? At that point, we're left with where does anything in Fresh Meadows fit into our overall plan of what we're going to do for the parks that Ann and Eric presented. There are a lot of ideas, a lot of priorities. As you're probably aware, we've really been focused on upgrading the community park. So between the, you know, the basketball court, the addition of the bathroom, the grading for the tennis area, and the splash pad, all of which we got substantial grant monies for. That has been the focus. We've heard about how there's a demand for shade trees on the walking trail there, and benches, etc., and all these other parks that are sort of in our capital plan this year that need equipment upgrades. So I'm not sure that if we say no to the meadow, the next thing is to give everyone a survey and say, what is it you all want at Fresh Meadows because you're the priority. That's my personal opinion as a board member. I'd say we're back to what are we going to do with our full picture here. So I just want to make sure that there isn't an expectation that if, presumably I'm hearing from the board, that we don't proceed with this, that we're going to come along and put shade trees in and all the rest of it within the next 12 months. It just may not happen. It will just stay as is, potentially. That's my view. At this point, Chris, I'm looking at you in terms of process, but we just need to take a vote on canceling the planned Grant Meadow project that we previously approved. Is that correct?
That would be correct, and then I can notify the Conservation District to withdraw the landowner agreement and proceed forward.
Okay, so is a board member willing to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Mr. Helms made a motion, Ms. Smith seconded it. The motion being to withdraw the planned Fresh Meadows Park Improvement Project. Is there any public questions or comments on the motion? Okay, then we'll take the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. Hope you enjoyed the park presentation. We're excited about what the future holds for West Goshen Parks. It'll just take a little bit of time to work through all that. Again, thank you.
And also, once this plan is put up on the website, I strongly suggest you guys take a look at page 108, 109. That's where they have some ideas about what can be done with your park, and I think it's right in line with what you have in mind.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 7, which is a public hearing and possible adoption of ordinance number 4, 2026, amending chapter 78, vehicles and traffic of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances to restrict parking on a portion of Maple Lane. I think this is with Kristen.
Yes, so I was given direction to prepare an ordinance to amend your vehicles and traffic chapter of your code, which is chapter 78, specifically to prohibit parking on the east side of Maple Lane from the intersection of Westchester Pike south 70 feet. So we did advertise tonight's hearing in the Daily Local on June 26th, and I sent a copy of the ordinance to the Law Library and Daily Local on June 17th. We had a public presentation of this, and we talked about the location of the prohibition of parking. So I don't recall what precipitated this, other than I think people being concerned about the sight distance and turning. So pretty straightforward.
There were concerns related to parking on the east side near the insurance office that exists there currently, and resulting in vehicles having to travel into the oncoming lane of traffic, creating a safety concern. As noted at, I think it was the June 16th board meeting, the Traffic Safety Committee for the Police Department, or the Traffic Safety Division for the Police Department evaluated this and determined that that was accurate. So in determining the distance, we just measured back from the intersection with Westchester Pike to the edge of the sidewalk, and that came out to 7 feet.
Thank you. And Kristen, you prepared the language, correct? Yeah. Any questions from the board? Okay, let's see. I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 14. Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 4, 2026, amending chapter 78 of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances to restrict parking on a portion of Maple Lane. To a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the motion? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Okay, we are up to agenda item number 8, discussion and possible adoption of resolution number 14, 2026, authorizing the township manager, Mr. Bayshore, to execute a grant agreement with the PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the West Goshen Community Park Splash Pad project. So before the board this evening is proposed resolution number 14, 2026. We would authorize the execution of the grant agreement with the PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the West Goshen's Community Park Splash Pad project. The township was recently awarded a $60,500 legislative initiative grant from PA Senator Carolyn Committer's office for the Splash Pad project. The grant has been assigned to DCNR. Since the township was previously awarded a community conservation partnership program grant from DCNR, the grant agreement needs to be amended to incorporate this funding. DCNR requires a resolution from the board to complete the process. Does anyone have any questions on this resolution? No? A board member willing to make a motion to adopt resolution number 14, 2026?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. I will second it. Any questions on the motion? Doug?
How much is the grant for?
$60,500.
60?
500.
And is there a match that the township provides?
No, there's no match. This kind of came about through a phone call that I got while I was away. And we filled out the paperwork and were awarded funding. And this brings the total amount of funding for the improvements community park to $510,500.
Okay, so you don't have to match it, all right?
It's part of our overall program where we have our own contribution to all of these projects which are bundled together in the grant applications, but this is a specific contribution towards the cost of the splash project.
Yeah, this is specific to that one element of the improvements.
Okay, any other questions? All right, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 9, possible discussion and possible appointment of Jessica Webb to the Historic Commission for West Goshen Township. So before the board this evening is consideration to appoint Jessica Webb to the West Goshen Township Historical Commission. If appointed, she would complete a term that expires in January 2029. On June the 25th, the Historical Commission voted unanimously to recommend her appointment. Please be advised that this would fill all vacancies on the body. Any questions from the board on the applicant?
Just want to say that Jessica was at the last Historic Commission meeting. She presented herself beautifully, and I think she's going to be a great addition.
Fabulous. Glad to hear. Any other comments or questions? Is a board member willing to make a motion to appoint Jessica Webb to the West Goshen Township Historical Commission?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, John. Are there any questions or comments? Doug?
Well, in appreciating what Nate mentioned, I would request that we possibly table the decision because actually 3 of our members were not there, Steve, Kathy, and Irene. And we actually didn't take a formal vote. There was sort of an informal implied consensus. We didn't have a CV available, although we did ask questions. And a vote for this recommendation was not on the agenda. In my opinion, would just be tabled until next meeting, until we have another regular vote at the Historical Commission. Again, it wasn't an actual vote. It was just like implied consensus. We didn't actually
Did you have a quorum at the meeting?
There was a quorum, yes, but it wasn't.
And the candidate presented herself and you discussed her and...
Informally, we did, but it wasn't actually, we didn't have a CD. I mean.
Doug, to your point, yeah, I didn't see any CD that was distributed.
Right, and it was a very informal discussion. So again, if you're looking for the input of the Historical Commission, maybe please consider tabling it and then we can do it next time.
Well, I'll express my personal view is you had a meeting, the candidate came before you, and you had a quorum there, and if the members seem to be acceptable, I don't think the process should be to defer this to another meeting. I personally am comfortable with her CV, and Nate was there.
Nate was there, yes.
So that's a good enough recommendation for me personally. Does any other board member disagree? Okay, so we have a motion. Thank you for your comment, Doug. Anyone else with any comments? Okay, I will take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 10, approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes from June the 2nd, 2026. I provided Chris with a couple of minor typo corrections. Did anyone else provide any corrections?
Yes, I
Were
got
were they all typo or were any of them content related?
None of them were content related, and I've made all the corrections that were submitted.
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes from June the 2nd. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Any comments or questions? Now we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 11.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Yes.
There's not even a soccer game on today.
Yeah. We have one more agenda item here. Number 11, approval of the bills to be paid for the general fund, the sewer revenue fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund. I will make the motion to approve the bills to be paid. Is there a second? Thank you, Ashley. Any questions or comments on the bills? All right, and since there's no public to have a comment, we will take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. I motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:08. Is there a second? Thank you, Ashley. All in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Chris, why is it so cold in here?
I turned the air conditioning on.
It's like really bad.
Freezing, everybody's complaining.
So I came in here.
I was comfortable.
Really?
I'm usually cold. Good night, everybody.
All right, here, this is the last one, just for
Yes.
She's always.
Yes. I was freezing. And the